Hello, this is Pastor Chris Wilson at St. Andrew Christian Church, and here to talk about my sermon this coming Sunday. We have been in a series entitled A Path to Wholeness, and this will be the third and final piece of that series. The first piece of that path to wholeness was openness and vulnerability. We talked about it's hard to have wholeness if you're not true to yourself. The second piece last week was true company, and we talked about if you can be open and vulnerable, you need the right people around you to do wholeness work. And this last piece of that series is called Being Grounded. Being grounded kind of has a unique definition, at least for me, because we can think of grounded can mean different things to different people. And so being grounded is being rooted in a scripture passage from the book of James in the New Testament. And the verse, probably the focus verse that I'm honing in on is being quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And that really is kind of an interesting kind of collection of phrases. When something happens to us, we often want to react to whatever it is. If it's something that's not to our advantage, our quick reaction is defend ourselves and react to something. And James, the author of James, says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Is don't let the raw emotion be your first response back to something. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have raw emotion and raw feelings about something and wanting to speak quickly. But there is, I think, wisdom in what the author of James has to share in terms of when something happens in our world, whether it be to us individually or to a group of people or to those we care about or a group of marginalized people that we want to stand up for in some way. Sometimes our first response, we need to listen to what our first response is. Why do we feel this way? Why do we get energized around that? Where is this source of power within us coming from to want to react this way? And I think James is offering us kind of what I call this unique little window between once you feel something and how you respond to something. And when we are grounded, the idea of being grounded means we give ourselves space to be in that in-between zone. So when we do respond, and response is necessary, it doesn't mean don't respond. The passage in James goes on to say, don't just be hearers only, but doers of the word as well. And so action and response is necessary, but we want to do so out of an informed, discerning, prayerful space before we engage those places with advocacy and justice and engagement and energy and clarity about why we're doing what we're doing. And so a path to wholeness isn't just guttural responses all over the place hoping that something sticks on the wall. Being grounded is kind of having clarity about who I am, who's with me, and what the response is going to be in those situations. And so the sermon this week will be some stories and reflections about what it is to be grounded. How do we navigate that in-between zone of feeling something and doing something, and when we do something, doing something that's not only powerful and meaningful, but is sustainable for that which we want to respond to. So I hope you join us on Sunday as we wrap up this series of A Path to Wholeness as we talk about being grounded with one another.